And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Conscious Parenting Live. Our goal on this show is to introduce you to the people and to the ideas that will help you raise kids who are happy, who are resilient, and who have the skills they need to thrive in their world. Now, one key part of raising healthy kids is nutrition because the way they feel, the way they look, the energy they have to go about in the world, all of that has to do with the kind of food they're putting into themselves. And I know as a parent, I have two kids of my own, and I know as a parent, it can oftentimes be a challenge, one, to think about what kind of food they should be eating because there's so much information out there. Eat carbs, don't eat carbs, eat sugar, don't eat sugar. There's so much information out there. So that's one part. And the other part is getting the time to actually do it and then getting them to eat the food that's healthy. Well, if you've had problems like these, the way I have, then tonight you guys are in for a treat. So our guest tonight is a former athlete who has competed in full contact martial arts tournaments, training with some of the best fighters in the world. He's also a surgical consultant, a nutrition and fitness coach, and has worked with numerous clients, going from individual athletes to families and companies, helping them implement healthy nutrition and fitness habits. He's designed corporate health and fitness programs for schools and companies, helping reduce employee downtime and increase productivity. He's also the founder of Team No Excuses Fitness, a worldwide nutrition and fitness education company that helps kids and adults achieve their nutrition and fitness goals through education. And he is the author of The Food Talk, a parent's guide to teaching healthy habits to kids of all ages. As if all of these were not enough, he also is an actor and he's appeared twice on the Netflix smash hit series House of Cards, which I personally love. And most importantly for me, he's the father of twins, a girl and a boy. So ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome my man, Sanjay Ray. Hey, Sanjay, how are you?
Doing well, my friend. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
It's great to have you here, man. It's a conversation that I've been really looking forward to. So I've been researching you for a while. I've been following your work for quite a bit. But for people who are just learning about you for the first time, could you tell them a bit about how you got into the whole fitness and nutrition space?
um, you know, my story is probably not any different from anybody else's, but as a kid, I had a lot of obesity issues. I grew up, I'm East Indian, so I grew up in India. And when my parents moved us to the States, I was having culture shock because I was used to an East Indian diet. Then I went to McDonald's, Burger King, all these places. I just blew up. I went crazy. And, it was in grade school and high school where I hit like the high level of my obesity. And I said, I got to make a change in high school. So I started my own personal journey. I got into martial arts when I was 15 years old. And that helped me gain self-confidence and the mental tools to kind of overcome my own demons and tackle the obesity issue for myself. And then I got into it so much, I became a professional MMA fighter for about 5 years, and I still teach martial arts now. And
Well,
then,
which was impressive for me, by the way, because I am such a huge MMA fan. So
yeah,
that, like, my respect for you went up like a thousandfold when I read that.
well, it was my parents thought I lost my mind because no rightful Indian kid goes into MMA. We don't do that apparently, but I got into that, and then I retired from the sport at the ripe young age of 26 years old because I was considered an old man in the sport, but by then. And I realized I had so many injuries from fighting, and my nutrition still wasn't very good. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start experimenting on myself. And what I did was I started cutting out sugar. I started really researching into the science of nutrition and getting into the why about why I eat certain things, not just because it's healthy for me, but knowing why I'm doing it. And a dramatic change happened. I went from being 210 pounds of muscle and a little bit of fat to 190, 180,
Whoa.
70. And now I sit at 165, healthiest weight for me ever. I'm 43 years old and I'm in better shape than when I was 22 years old.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I know you have twin kids, a boy and a girl. And I know at the time you had kids, you started really diving deep into childhood nutrition. And that's how come the book came about. We'll talk about the book a bit later. But when you look at, kids and the eating habits that kids seem to have right now, what are the major downsides of parents not being deliberate and intentional about the way they let their kids eat?
That's a great question. And what I say rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but I have to say it anyways, which is there's no such thing as a picky eater. I say this in every one of my speeches. I get this.
Yeah.
Kids are, these parents will come up to me and say, hey, my son is picky. He only eats this. My daughters and I look at them, I take a deep breath and I say, don't take this personally. This all comes from you. It just does. Because kids are not born picky. They have no idea about nutrition. They don't come out of the womb saying, I hate broccoli, but I love macaroni and cheese. They don't do that. What happens is we subconsciously as parents put our own moral judgment on the food we eat to our children. So I'm a victim of this. My mom basically loved sugar. She loved sugary foods. I'm Gujarati, which is from northern India. And northern Indian food is very sweet. We put sugar in everything, even though it doesn't need it. We just put it in there anyways, and it's just really annoying. And so I grew up on that, loving it. And then I took a hard look at myself going, why do I crave sugar so much? And I really thought about it. I said, I got it from my parents. We have such a strong influence on our children. So what I did was I said, when my twins were born, I'm going to do one thing and one thing alone. I'm going to get them on the right track. And how do I do that? Is I'm going to start experimenting with their palate. When children are young, and in my research in the book, kids develop their taste palates as early as 8 to 9 months old. So what I did was I made my own baby food. I said, I'm going to mix broccoli and banana. I'm going to mix avocado and strawberries. And I started doing different flavor combinations. I not only saved money, but guess what? My kids now, they'll say, pass on the French fries, give me some broccoli. I literally, the way they eat food now. We went to Maldives, Singapore, and Bali at the end of 2017. I took the kids on a trip. They are world-class eaters. I've taught them not to be fearful, to try everything, and pushing their boundaries constantly. We came back, my daughter's favorite food, it was in Singapore, was barbecued stingray. I don't know what 6-year-old loves barbecue. He does, right? So my premise is really simple. You have the power to literally change the way they feel and think about food. If you can get it early on, guess what? There's going to be trial and error. I had a lot of failures, but I had a lot of successes. But guess what now? I don't have to worry about it. I put anything in front of them, they'll eat it. I try to cook healthy, they love it. And they'll even call me out on and say, Dad, this is probably not that healthy. Why are you feeding us this? So they'll and I love it. I love the accountability. But at the end of the day, I tell parents, I tell everybody, I tell educators, number one, don't leave it to other people to teach your children about nutrition. This is your job, number one. Number two, think about your own cultural biases. And that is your parents who taught you how to eat, you're taking that knowledge, that information, and you're giving it to your kids. So question everything. Question how you were taught. There's so much information out there that there is no reason why we shouldn't teach our kids at an early age. And third, and I harp on this all day, which is sugar. Sugar is the greatest enemy we've ever had in our life. It's worse than cancer. It's worse than smoking. It's worse than anything out there. You know why? Because it's in literally everything. Everything we eat. And my kids,
ketchup, like everything, right?
And my kids are so hyper aware of how much sugar they eat that I'm not telling you cut all sugar off because that's impossible. What I'm saying though is I educate my kids so that when they have a piece of cake, they have one and no more.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to dive a little deeper into what you just said right now. Now, I've heard you say a few times. In fact, let me backtrack. So you started when your kids were young, which is phenomenal. But for people like us whose kids are like 8, 9, 10, 11, first of all, what do we do? And then secondly, there's a conversation I heard you having that had to do with this whole clean plate camp thing and how it cannot be a battle of wills, like eat your food or you don't get up till 2 p.m. Right. So for the regular parents listening to this who didn't have the information you had when your kids were still babies and whose kids now are 8, 9, 10, and they've grown up eating a lot of different things, like how should we approach this?
That's a fantastic question because in the book I write that it's never too late. Now, the older they get, the harder it is to change those habits, but it's never too late. So the first thing I say to all my parents, my educators is lead by example, number one. And that is what you do should be a reflection of what you want them to do. You can't ask them to eat healthy and not do it yourself. You got to be accountable because no matter how old they are, they're watching you. They're always, okay? Be consistent in your messaging. Okay, I highlight the 3 Ps, which is patience, perseverance, and persistence. It's going to take those three things to get you through it. I tell parents, I tell educators, take the path of most resistance now, and guess what? Later on in life, it'll be much easier for you to change those habits for them, okay? So lead by example, number one. Number two, it's going to be challenging their perception of food. Always involve kids in the process. That's what I always tell parents and families. My daughter is my little sous chef. So what happens when I'm cooking, she'll say, this is the menu I want. And I'll say, okay, that's a great idea. I let them pick the menu. We go grocery shopping, they're picking the produce. We go out to a restaurant, there's no such thing as the kids menu. We order off the adult menu. That's what we do, okay? The reason why is having them involved in the process gets them engaged, gets them thinking about it. Don't make nutrition fitness something like, I told you so. Because mom and dad told you so, you have to do it. Anytime I heard that, I did the opposite. So why would I?
Exactly.
Right? I'm not
exactly.
So those two things, lead by example, have them involved in the process, whether it's grocery shopping, eating out in a restaurant, cooking in the kitchen, have them involved. And the third thing I harp on is think about the mindset. Always think about the why. So if you ever listen to my podcast or any of the articles I publish, I'm all about the why. And that is, why are you doing this? Why did you crave this? Why did you make this decision? Go to the why. You go to the why, you get to the heart of the matter, rather than, I don't know why I'm doing this. I always hated that answer. You know why you're doing it. You just have to take some time and thought and dive into it.
Interesting. So if I could ask you now, I've heard you mentioned just now about that parents should take the path of most resistance, right? They shouldn't take the path of least resistance. One of the things that I find when we say, all right, this is how we're going to be eating now. And my wife and I, we've been on this very healthy, clean eating diet for I think 3.5 years right now. But I know at the time when we started, we'd say, okay, this is how we're going to eat this week. But then life gets in the way, things get really hectic. And you just find, you walk home, you open the refrigerator and you just, cook the quickest thing you can get, right? And I've heard you talk a lot about the power of meal planning. And for a lot of people, it sounds very intimidating. It sounds like something that the nerds, not in a bad way, but the people who are very anal about health, like what they do. But I know about the power of meal planning. Can you demystify it and just explain to people what that process should look like and how it can help them get the best out of their health?
This is a great question by you. So when people hear meal planning, you're exactly right. They hear, oh my God. So I got to break down the calories. I got to break down the nutrition. I said, no, you don't have to do any of that. Okay. Listen, I live a very busy lifestyle. I'm a single father of twins. I travel the world. I do speaking engagements. But one thing I make sure is when I'm home, my kids have a home cooked meal by me. We're not going to go eat out. We're going to do this together. And how do I do it? It's real simple. And that is on my weekends when I'm in town, Saturdays and Sundays, I look at, hey, we've got this week ahead of us. Monday through Friday, I may be home. If so, great. I've got 5 meals to prep. So all the recipes I make and I share with my clients, you can make them all in less than an hour because I know life is busy. I'm not going to cook elaborate meals that take 2 hours. I don't even have time for that stuff. So what I do is we go to, and everything I buy, you can buy at a local grocery store, not Whole Foods, something exotic where you're breaking the bank. Everything needs to be affordable because that's the other stigma, and that is eating healthy costs too much. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. So that's what I do. We go to a local grocery store, we find everything we need. And what I do is I buy and I cook in bulk. That's one of the things people don't do, which is they don't like leftovers. Well, guess what? If you make a meal taste good, leftovers taste great the second day, honestly.
I agree.
Right? So my last night's dinner is going to be tomorrow's lunch. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to tackle that. So I'm done. So when I say meal prep, like breakfast, for example, I'll give you a quick recipe. I make baked protein pancakes. I bake them in the oven. They stay good for 7 days. High in protein, high in fiber, low in sugar, and very good carbs because I use almond flour, coconut flour, and flaxseed in there. And guess what? The kids, I dress it up with almond butter, with fruit. It looks like a birthday cake. They think it's dessert. They absolutely do. But I tell them the truth. I tell them, you are eating very healthy. I'm not going to trick you here. And they try it, like it, and guess what? They want more. So everything we can make healthy food appetizing. So when I meal prep, I'm saying to myself, I've got a plan in place so that when I come home late from work on Tuesday night, I open the fridge, food's in the fridge. I don't have to go, hey, let's get takeout. Let's go to Burger King. Let's go. I don't have to deal with any of that mess. I'm all about efficiency, especially running a tight ship in my house.
And I think for a lot of people, the misconception, and I was that way a couple of years ago, the misconception is that if it's healthy, then it probably won't taste as good,
Yeah.
right? But for anyone who is listening to this or watching us live, like you really, really need to get Sanjay's book because he gives you loads of recipes that you can begin to implement. They're quick to make and
Yeah.
they are very, very yummy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about one of the little one of the tips you give in the book. So we know that even if you're at home with the kids and you're getting them to eat healthy, they still go to school, they still go to birthday parties, there's still loads of sweets and all these other things there. How do you, like, what are the tips and tricks that you can teach people to help their kids navigate these landmines of awful junk food?
Yeah, no. So we're getting in the States, we're getting to what I call the landmine months in my book, which is the holidays. We've got Thanksgiving coming up, we've got Christmas coming up, we've got New Year's coming up. So basically, people are going to say, take that diet, throw it out the window, and we're going to eat whatever we want. So the first thing I tell people is that this is not a diet. Diets are unsustainable. You are doing a true lifestyle change. Okay, lifestyle changes are sustainable through an extended period of time, and you're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days, but life's going to get in the way. So what I tell people is the power of the rule of one, which is a chapter in my book. The rule of one states very simply, you have to try everything at least one time. Number one, good, bad, or ugly. Two, have one piece and learn how to portion control. I can't get rid of sugar out of my kids' lives. I can't do it. I wouldn't even begin to try. But what I can do is Halloween's coming up next week, and guess what? Or this week actually. When they come home with their Halloween candy, I say, pick your top 5, enjoy your top 5, and then we're going to parse out the rest. We're going to donate the rest because we can't eat 100 pieces of candy. Can't do that. But you know what? Throughout the week, I'll let you have 1 or 2 here and there, and we're good. So understanding moderation versus overindulgence. And I don't think parents do a good enough job because they say, oh, have that piece of cake. Oh, have this, have that. And you mentioned the Clean Plate Club. Yeah, that's a true thing. I grew up in the Midwest in Kansas when I moved to the States. You've got the portion sizes, which are monster sizes, okay? And you're expected to eat all of it. And guess what? We're forced binge eating our kids. So I tell my kids, when you're done, push the plate away. It's okay. I don't want you to force eat. And I can't understand how parents go, if you don't eat this, you're going to lose this. If you don't eat all of this, you're going to lose that. Have them try it, but don't overfeed them. Because what are you saying then? You're saying you have to overeat this, but you can't overeat desserts. How do they make that differentiation? They can't. So what I tell my kids is push the plate away when you're done. My son, he amazes me. He'll tell me, he'll like, Dad, I don't really feel like dessert or anything. I'm good. I'm like, fantastic. That's great. I love it. My daughter, on the other hand, she's got a bit of a sweet tooth, but she actually will, after one piece, push the plate away. So if you teach them early on, you don't need to clean your plate, they can then differentiate over time between healthy and desserts, and you'll get the same positive results, which is don't overeat and overindulge.
That's powerful. And I think it circles back to what you said when we started this conversation about how a lot of the habits that many of us parents have right now, they're things that we inherited from our parents as well. The sit down and eat, don't get up till you're done. It's just stuff that we heard growing up and we just started acting out that same script. Okay, so shifting gears slightly right now, there was a time I used to travel quite a lot for work. And there was a time I think I was in Switzerland or something. My son, I have a 9-year-old son now. Back then he was 8. And his iPad is connected to my iPhone. So I can see everything he's watching on YouTube. Yeah. And I remember one morning I looked at it, and bear in mind, this is an 8-year-old kid. And like the first 4 videos I see is how to get 6-pack abs. And I kid you not, right? So I took a screenshot of my phone and I sent it to my wife to say, look at what Tisha has been watching. And she was like, oh my goodness, do you know that he insisted this morning that he didn't want to have breakfast, that he wasn't feeling hungry? And this is like an 8-year-old kid. Like kids normally want to eat, right? So that had me thinking. But later, when I got back from my trip, we had a sit-down talk, and I realized that somebody in school had actually called him fat, and he wanted to find a way to lose weight. So he was skipping meals without telling his mom or me why he was skipping meals. He was Googling and checking how to get, and that really, it sounds a bit funny, but it gave me a lot of concern because there are a lot of issues around kids having concerns about their body image. And I know that there's a story that you shared about when your daughter came to you and asked you if she was fat, and that was really touching. Can you just talk a bit about that and some of the principles that you think parents should follow when it comes to helping their kids have a very healthy self-image with their bodies?
Now, this is I love these questions. These are so fantastic. This one in particular. So there's a term. It's called body dysmorphia, and I had this as a kid myself. I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I felt about myself because of judgments of other people. Right? I grew up in the 80s when I was in high school. Right? So we didn't have social media back then. We didn't have cell phones back then, but we had our peer groups, and we had to look a certain way to join our peer groups. So you know what? I went through all that. I was the rare exception in the sense that I developed the mental tools to basically go, this is the direction I'm going in. I'm not going to listen to anybody else. Everybody else is outside noise. This is for me, this journey. Okay? And I was lucky. Most people don't have that. So getting back to the story with my daughter, she is not on social media, thank God, right now. But she has her friends at school, and they have cell phones. I haven't allowed her to have a cell phone yet. And she sees other girls eat this and make comments and all that. And she came to me and she said, Dad, I feel like I'm fat. And I said, you know what? When you look in the mirror, what do you see? I asked her a simple question. She goes, I don't know. I see myself. I said, are you happy? And she said, yeah, I'm happy. And I said, okay. Well, guess what? You know what that tells me? I told her, I said, that tells me you are happy with who you are, the way you look, and you're generally okay with everything. She goes, okay. I said, so if somebody decides to tell you you don't look a certain way, how does that make you feel? She goes, it makes me feel sad. I said, but think about this though. What's more important? The way you think about yourself or the way somebody else thinks about you? What do you think is more important to you? And she said, me, because I can make myself happy all the time. I said, you got it. There you go. Only you can make yourself happy. Nobody else can tell you how to feel. And at 8 years old, she got that. And I was so proud of her because I didn't get that. It took me a long time to figure that out when I was her age. So, we're going to be dealing with this because you see it on TV. You see the Kardashians on TV and people follow them. They have to look a certain way. You see all this on TV, and kids are bombarded by social media. They're bombarded by TV and how we're supposed to look, right? But at the end of the day, if you don't think about food in terms of diet, but more of a lifestyle, then you know what? All that stuff gets thrown out the window because diets, like I said, they're just that, unsustainable. Why is Jenny Craig? Why is all these companies in business? You know why? They put you on a diet. They don't tell you how to do it. But then you keep coming back for more because they want to keep you in the dark about the process. When actually you're paying them for something you could have done on your own. That's what you're doing, right? So when you think about it in terms of lifestyle and mindset, then the most important message I tell my clients and my kids and anybody who I work with is this, and that is, do this for you, not for your friends, your family, nobody else. This is for you. This is your journey. Okay? Your journey will be different than everybody else's journey. As long as you're happy with your journey and the way you end up, you'll be fine.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like that's a soundbite right there. Okay, so I have a few more questions, getting a bit more like tactical and specific now. I know a lot of people who are listening, they want to know, the basic guidelines. I know you talk a lot in your book about grains and colors and all of these. What should they be eating? What should they stay away from? Like general paintbrush. For everyone listening, please go get the book so that you can get all the details. But general paintbrush, give us an idea of what we should be eating and what we should be staying away from.
Yeah, so what I talk about now is my message has changed just a little bit, but not too much. And that is I don't talk about food in terms of calories. Everybody's doing that. They're saying you need X amount of calories. I talk about food in terms of macros. And for those people who don't know what macros are when you break out food into nutrients: protein, fiber, carbs, sugar, and good fats. Those are the main macros, right? So when I talk to clients, I do my lectures, I say I don't focus on calories ever. I need a bulk of my calories from protein, fiber, good carbs, good fats, and then sugar, natural sugar if it's in there, great, but I don't need processed sugar or excess sugar. If you think of food in terms of, I've always need to increase my protein, fiber should be number one and 1A. One of the most, I guess, least known facts about macros is that fiber is the number one macronutrient that most Americans don't get enough of their diet. What does fiber do? Fiber is so powerful. When you eat 30 grams of carbs and you eat 15 grams of fiber, you eliminate 15 grams of carbs. So you've actively only stored 15 carbs in your body.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what those are called active carbs. So you take carbs minus fiber, and you get that number. Those are active carbs you've stored. So you want as much fiber in your diet as possible because that eliminates excess carbs, which is fantastic.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, most people don't realize I push fiber all the time.
Could you give me some really like the top fiber sources for people out there?
Yeah. So one of the things I do is like flaxseed flour. I use in a lot of my recipes. I put in. I make a homemade pizza with flaxseed flour. I make protein pancakes with flaxseed flour. I started doing a French toast with flaxseed flour. I do oatmeal with flaxseed flour. So flaxseed flour is fantastic as far as fiber goes. Okay, the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli is great for fiber. Avocados are awesome for fiber. Cauliflower is great for fiber. A lot of the leafy greens are great in fiber. Oatmeal is number one. I mean, so oatmeal contains a fiber called beta glucan. Beta glucan actually reduces cholesterol in your body. It's fantastic. It's one of the best fibers you can get, right? So I go fiber number one, protein 1A, okay, because we need good sources of protein, right? And I know in the States, it's a lot of it's meat-based protein, but across the world, it's plant-based protein because there are a lot of sources to meat. So plant-based protein is fantastic, just as good. And then the number two is carbs get such a bad rap. There's a difference between good carbs and bad carbs. There's a big difference, okay? Good carbs can contain good fiber as well. Good carbs are good for brain development. That's why eating, like your story about your son, talking about he skips breakfast. Guess what? Carbs are for brain development. That's the fuel for our brain. We need that in order to stay mentally active and mentally sharp. So I tell people, breakfast is your cheat meal. What I tell people is eat a monster breakfast because that's your cheat meal. You just got up, your body's dehydrated, have your good carbs, have your breads, have your multigrains, enjoy it. And then guess what? When you hit lunchtime, taper down your carbs to about 30% from what you had from breakfast. Focus more on fiber and protein. For dinner, basically reduce your carbs one more time, another 10%. Focus on fiber and protein and good fats. The reason why I say focus on good fats help you burn calories and lose weight when you're sleeping. Where do you get good fats? Avocados are fantastic.
Fantastic.
Salmon is a great source of DHA, which is a fatty acid that's good for brain development. So healthy food can be very enjoyable. It's not that carbs are the enemy. They just got a bad rap because the food industry does this wonderful thing of, hey, we want you to buy something that's overpriced and create a new food market. So what did they do? Originally everything was sugar-free. Then everything was fat-free. Now everything is gluten-free. I'm like, come on, it just never ends, right? Non-organic, GMO. I mean, they're going to find a new food industry to get you to pay more money when at the end of the day, carbs are not the enemy. Carbs actually help you lose weight over time as long as you have the right ones.
Fantastic. That's such a solid answer. Okay, I cannot have a former MMA fighter on the show and not talk a little bit about fitness. So one of the things that I started doing is a book I read. I forget the title of that book now. Something wild. Anyway, it talked about how exercising in the morning was really, really good for cognitive development for kids. And so my kids and I would take a very quick, like a 5-minute run before school in the morning and back. So that's one of the things that we do together. But I'm always curious to learn, especially from someone in the industry, if I wanted to get my kids to exercise more, maybe do it with them or on their own. What are the kind of exercises that you think are really great, that kids enjoy and that are fun and that are also very, very valuable for health?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So what I do with my kids is I had a very predetermined plan in my mind of how I wanted to expose them to fitness as well. And that is, I grew up in martial arts, so I taught them martial arts. They love it. So they like to compete. We go to tournaments, so that was great. And then I actually started learning, if you're familiar with parkour, which is free running. I started
Yeah.
learning that too. And that is so fantastic because I'm all about functional fitness. I'm not all about being the big weightlifter guy. No, thank you. I'm done with that. I'm all about functional fitness, being able to get from point A to point B in the most efficient manner possible. So when I work with clients, most of my clients come to me and say, hey, I just want to be able to play with my kids. All right, we're going to make that happen for you, right? And so with my kids, I've taught them how to run, how to jump, how to navigate obstacles, and just to be sure of themselves and their feet. And that's helped them with so many other sports like soccer, tennis, or whatever it may be. So I'm always exposing them to something different. So when I have them on the weekends, we do something different every weekend. So last weekend in Orlando, this is where I live, they had the largest bouncy castle in the world that they did inflatable out in the park. We went out there for 2 hours. We bounced around. They had the largest obstacle course. We did that for like another hour, and we were done. I mean, I was spent. They were spent. It's great. But you know what it is? I'm always trying to challenge them. As I push their culinary boundaries, I'm pushing their physical boundaries as well. Because I don't want them to go, I never tried it. I'm going to be fearful of it. And it's the funniest thing. I taught them how to swim at a very early age, really early age. Because
how early is very how
uh,
early was very early?
we're talking, I had them in the water by like 9 to 10 months.
Whoa.
Yeah. The reason why is babies naturally know how to swim. They just know how to do it. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Babies are amazing in that sense. And then I had them take a course to basically teach them how to swim from an instructor who was really licensed in doing this. And they're like, wow, they just picked it up. Yeah. Because I put them in the water really quickly. That's why. So, and then I got my scuba diving certification last year. When they get old enough, they're going scuba diving with me.
Scuba diving.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it is for me? It's just pushing their boundaries. I just push their boundaries in every way because when you're a child, you have no fear. We develop our fears later in life with food,
Yeah.
fitness, with everything. When you're a child, the world is open to you. So you know what? I want to take that confidence and parlay it into them trying something new all the time. So I would say my biggest takeaway from this is have them try something new with you all the time because it starts with you, it ends with you, and it's only going to happen because of you.
Fantastic. Brilliant answer. Brilliant answer. Okay, we're going to wrap things up really quickly, but I want to talk a bit about the book. First of all, where can people find your work?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So I've got a website called www.thefoodtalk.net. And there's an e-commerce store. You can order the book if you like. And you've got a downloadable version of the ebook. And then also if you buy a hard copy of the book, I will send you a signed copy of the hard copy of the book as well. So you can find it there. It's also on Barnes & Noble's website. It's also on Amazon.com as well. So we're everywhere as far as the book goes.
Fantastic. And I know I said it before, but I want to say it again to everyone listening. I've read a couple of the reviews. It's a great book. I've listened to people that have interviewed Sanjay and they have nothing but really good things to say about the book. So do yourself a favor, get the free recipes, get the tactical applications to a lot of the challenges that we parents face raising kids and feeding them well. And you will thank me and Sanjay for it. Okay. So what was the objective? What were you hoping to achieve when you wrote that book?
It was really simple. What I hoped to achieve was to say to parents, new first-time parents, parents who've had kids, in their 6, 7 years age, that are not newborn or anything like that. My goal was very simple, and that is food and nutrition. Just like you mentioned, you had a previous guest who talked about sex, right?
Yeah.
I my food talk, my book, The Food Talk, because parents have the sex talk. I call it. That's why. Reason why, and that talk, guess what, is going to affect every day of their life for the rest of their lives. The most important subject you can teach them, but we don't give it the respect that it needs. That's why I called it The Food Talk. And the most important thing that comes out of the book is anybody can do it. If you're single, if you're a solo parent, if you're a standard household, it doesn't matter what country you come from, what demographic you live in, does not matter. You can do this because all you need to have is a little bit of courage, be able to, and a willingness to fail, because you will fail. I failed a lot. Okay. And guess what? You're going to happen is you're going to see this amazing shift, not only in them, but in yourself, because the book really preaches doing it together as a family. You are 10 times more successful than doing it by saying, please do this for me, even though I'm not going to follow it. So it holds parents accountable for their actions. So I kind of wrote it in a trickery way where I'm educating the parents at the same time educating the children, because I want them to be part of the journey.
Fantastic. That's beautiful. Okay, my final question, Sanjay. So fast forward in time, you're 80 years old, you're sitting at the table, it's your 80th birthday, and both your kids stand up to talk about the impact you had in their lives and how you helped them become the people they eventually turned out to be. Like, what do you hope they would say?
Yeah, it's very simple with me, and that is I've had a lot of careers in my life. You know, I'm still trying to find myself, honestly. I was in corporate America, I was in medical field, I was in engineering, I was in IT, I was an MMA fighter, I'm an actor, I'm an author. I'm still developing some skills because I just want to taste everything. And what I want them to say is that my dad didn't live a life one day filled with regret. And that is, I want to live a regret-free life. And that is, I wanted to try everything. I may have failed. I've failed so many times in my life. But guess what? Got back up, tried it again. And I never want a day to go by when I'm 80 years old and I'm not physically able to do certain things, or I never tried that. Because that, to me, is the worst thing in the world, is going back in time saying, I wish I could have done this. I'd rather do it now, successfully, or fail at it. But I can say at least I did it.
Fantastic. That's an awesome answer. Hey, Sanjay, I cannot thank you enough. I know you have a really, really packed schedule, so it was amazing that we could make the time to have this conversation together. We wish you all the very best with the upcoming speaking engagements and with the Food Talk Net. Thank you so very much for coming on, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think you're doing wonderful work, and please keep it up. And anything I can do to support your mission, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you so much. All right. Take care. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Conscious Parenting Live. I trust that you took a lot away from that conversation. Food, like Sanjay mentioned, is one of the most important topics that you can address with your kids. It'll be good for you. It'll be good for the family, because a healthy family is a family that sticks together. So do yourself a favor, like I mentioned, get the book. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe. We have an awesome lineup of guests coming on in the next couple of weeks, so you don't want to miss it. Thank you very much for sticking with us till the end. And until next time, my friends, be well.